Welcome, everyone. Good afternoon. How are we all feeling? Woo! Well, I'm super excited to be here to introduce our amazing speaker for this session, Understanding Your Hiring Culture to Engage Candidates. So please join me in welcoming to the stage our speaker, Jon Burke.
Hey, guys. Hello. So I got to walk up this ramp here. Here we go. All ready? All right. So welcome. How are you guys right now? Are y'all awake? You seem awake. I've gotten to walk around and meet a lot of you. So what did they serve for dessert? Cake, chocolate cake? Did you stick your face in the chocolate cake? Are you about to fall asleep? No? Okay, good. So today we're going to talk about hiring culture. Oh, before that, who here is a fashion person? Oh, can you stand up? Because I need your advice. Any other fashion people? Oh, yeah, well, great, even better. Okay, so I bought this shirt. Oh, it's inside out, but okay, that's my fashion sense. It's inside out. So I was going to wear the red puffy shirt, but I decided against it. Should it be should I have done red puffy shirt? Okay, raise your hand if you think I should have gone really awesome with the red puffy. Okay, well. Let's do this right now. No, I'm kidding. All right. So next time I'll do the red puffy shirt. All right, for sure. So next time. So I'm Jon Burke. I am a consultant with Recruiting Toolbox, and I am absolutely thrilled to be here. Honored to be here. This is one of the best conferences of the year. Round of applause if you think this is one of the best conferences of the year, for sure. Very good. Very good. Also, I really want to challenge all of you guys to do that +1 pledge. How many of you have already followed +1? All right, do it. That's the purpose of our work. We're recruiters, we're HR folks. It's about connection. Take everything you know and everything you learn and share that knowledge with other people who might not be as fortunate to come to these things. So there we go. There's my soapbox. So consultant with Recruiting Toolbox. Also in my past life, I was a VP of HR for a lot of years over recruiting. And today we're going to talk about two things that I love. One is talent acquisition, which, by the way, how many people here are pure talent acquisition specialists, recruiters? All right, yes. How many of you are HR pros that are doing recruiting? Hi, HR people, I know you're there. Okay, perfect, excellent. Here's the one thing that I'll say about recruiting. When you think about all the talent disciplines, recruiting, employee relations, talent management, comp and benefits, recruiting by far creates the most immediate impact for your organization, period, point blank. Period, point blank. So congratulations for being in a field that actually is creating very purposeful work for a lot of people, all right? You can woohoo all night long, all right? So we're going to talk about talent acquisition, and the other thing I love to talk about is corporate culture. How many people right now have some sort of culture initiative going on? You're concerned about culture, people are asking about culture. Raise your hands. Very good. How many of your candidates want to know what your culture is? Absolutely. Everybody's hands should be raised right now. I went to a conference where a very large human capital management system, it was ADP, had actually just rolled, it was ADP. How many people are in ADP? No, that's okay. So, right, exactly. So they had just partnered with a group and they were launching chatbots. They did a beta test of this very large, it was like a huge company. And when they did the chatbot, the number one question that candidates asked Chatty or Clippy or whatever the chatbot's name was tell me about your culture. 80% of the people asked that first question. All right, so what we're going to talk about today, when we talk about culture, one of the things that I was very fortunate in the company I worked for as VP of People was that we were very intentional about culture. And when we talk about culture, what that simply means is understanding the underlying patterns and norms of your organization. Understanding, to get that, you have to understand what your people value, because what they value drives behaviors. What drives behaviors drives results. So we always think about culture, corporate culture. We then look at data and we always think that it's okay that there's micro-cultures. Your accounting department might have a culture. Your software engineering department might have its own microculture. But we don't look at it from the point of view of our talent acquisition team. All right? So we're going to talk about those things. And what I'm going to suggest to you is if you start looking at the underlying values and behaviors of the stakeholders of your talent acquisition team, You're going to get better results, higher engagement, more trust amongst all the stakeholders, and you're going to have more fun at work. How many of y'all are really not having fun at work right now? Liars, y'all are liars. Liars! All right, so, liars. How many are sitting next to your boss? Yeah, she is right there. She loves your organization. She loves you and your organization. All right, so I got a lot of slides to go through, and we only have, oh man, I've just eaten up a lot of time. Here's the good news, guys. I want you to take pictures of these slides. I want you to share on social media, #TalentConnect. Go ahead and tag me. All the cool stuff. Knowledge share is important. But also, because I love you, there's a link at the end of this presentation that you'll be able to download these slides. All right? Round of applause so you don't have to take notes all day. Okay. Recruiting Toolbox. We work with a lot of very large companies, formidable companies, ones that you've heard of. Starbucks. Starbucks is my home away from home. You know, Starbucks. All right, so that's my cheers. I go in there so often they go, hey, Miss Dawn, how are you doing, Miss Dawn? Regular Miss Dawn, mini scone Miss Dawn, and I'm like, I'm going to spend so much freaking money at this place. I love you guys. All right, so a lot of big organizations we work with. We also have worked with smaller organizations, and when I was running HR departments, I worked for medium-sized companies, tech companies, more scrappy. Here's the one universal truth. What we have seen at Recruiting Toolbox, no matter what the size of your organization, no matter small, medium, or large, the recruiting problems usually overlap. They're usually 80% the same. 80% the same. It might be a process issue. It might be a strategy issue. Maybe your ATS is the best system ever. Yeah, okay, it's not. That being said, the thing that's the most evasive, the thing that talent leaders are most with, is this concept of engagement. How do we engage candidates? What does that mean? But how do we engage our stakeholders? Because what I'm going to say to you is this. Stakeholders, who are your stakeholders? They're going to be your recruiters, they're going to be your hiring managers, and they're going to be that third-level decision maker, probably a CEO, somebody up here, right? These are the three people that they have to get aligned. They have to do everything they can to get aligned and understand what they value, so they're able to then understand the behaviors that are helping them attract the best candidates for your current culture, not the best candidates for the culture you wish it was, but the best candidates for the culture you have now. We have to, when we think about the purpose of our work, we have to get out of the mindset that our role is just pumping out requisitions. Can I get an amen? We don't just pump out requisitions, all right? We have to elevate ourselves to talent advisors, because the things that we do, imagine, just for a minute, think about what we do. The work we do, the jobs we offer, the jobs that candidates accept, change their lives immediately. Would you agree? It impacts them. It impacts their families. It impacts their ability to pay a mortgage. It affects their ability to send their kids to college. Equally as important, it affects their self-worth. It affects their feeling of efficacy or their ability to contribute to the world. And if you aren't aligned as those stakeholders, understanding what each of you values so you can connect with your candidates better, then how on earth are you going to engage the right candidates for your current culture? All right? So that's what we're going to talk about today. Now, my working title was going to be Recruiters Behaving Badly, or Recruiters Gone Wild. And why is that? Because we're talking about values. And sometimes, like I've said, what you value inherently drives your behaviors. And sometimes we can go a little rogue. We can go a little wild. All right? So that's what we're going to talk about today. Because when we talk about going wild, it usually is something like, this is what your hiring manager might presume your hiring culture is like. It's like, hey, yeah, those recruiters, I love them. They are great people. They're a lot of fun, really well-intended. Love to go have a beer with them. They're people. But you know what? I don't really know what they're doing behind the scenes because I don't connect with them very much. And frankly, I don't necessarily think they know a lot about my business or strategy. I'm not sure they're aligned with me. All right? And that's a false presumption a lot of the time. Sometimes it's not a false presumption. And that's why we've got to get aligned with each other so we're communicating better. I guarantee you that most of the things that you value, your hiring managers value, your C-suite values. We just don't know it yet. We don't look at the commonalities. We look at the places where we're different. All right? You with me? So how do we do this? Understanding your hiring culture, and that's what we're going to talk about today. That's what alignment is about. So this is what we're going to get through very quickly. Why recruiters aren't aligned. There's some very good reasons why we might not be aligned with what our stakeholders are aligned with. We're going to discuss why stakeholder alignment is difficult. Of course, we got to talk to you about a definition of culture. We got to talk about what is culture versus engagement versus values. We're going to give you a very high-level overview on how you can start to evaluate your hiring culture, start getting data from all of your stakeholders to figure out what are those areas that you value together that drive behaviors. What are your strengths in the hiring culture? And then, of course, I love to always give a little bit of real-life examples. So who in your organization typically is the decision maker for the hire? Somebody yell it out. Hiring manager, typically they are. So I agree. So what we're going to do is we're going to show you a couple of examples where recruiters have leveraged that relationship with their hiring manager to give you some examples of some cool stuff they're doing together in real life. All right. So also, I know that you're probably tired. So actually, this group is pretty not tired. I think that's great. But I know you're probably getting texts from your children, from your boss. Maybe you're going to get a little sleepy. It's a little warm in here. That's cool. I've been there. So anytime we switch to a different topic, I'm going to throw up a big head of somebody who behaves badly, and that just can bring you back. So if you start to drift, it's bring you back. So I get it, though. I have been in your shoes many times. Why recruiters aren't aligned with the other stakeholders. All right. Again, sometimes people perceive, because they don't know what we value, that we might be behaving badly. So y'all throw out to me, what are some of the kind of tried and true, tired stereotypes of when recruiters go rogue, of bad traits of a recruiter? Just throw them out. Bad perceptions of us. Ghosting candidates, yes. What else?
Post and pray.
Oh, post and pray. So what, the hiring manager's like, oh yeah, thanks a lot. Real strategic there. What else?
That we're not actually sourcing.
That we're not sourcing. What do they think we're doing?
That there's 300 candidates out there.
That there's 300 magic candidates out there just waiting to come. All right. What else? Giving away the farm. Don't know what we're doing. We're not aligned with the business. That's the most painful one. And that's the one where sometimes we aren't. All right. What else?
It's our fault when a candidate declines an offer.
Oh, but it is, isn't it? Yeah, so know what that is? That's a culture of noise. That's where we're finger pointing at each other, all right? So those are some of the things. We're lazy, we're tired, we sell, we're always talking, we're selling all the time, we're like da-da-da-da-da-da-da-da. All right? But I just, for giggles, I thought, okay, well, let's go into Google and put recruiters are. First of all, no, I, for my whole career, have been a recruiter and a hiring manager. But I'm equal opportunity. Hiring managers are. Hiring managers sometimes are stupid. How many of you, by show of hands, have stupid hiring managers? No, okay, you're not. Okay. Okay. All right. So rest assured, we all have a little bit of work to do, correct? As far as perceptions. The perceptions are usually not the reality. We are not scumbags, and hiring managers are not stupid, usually. So here's some real reasons though why we might be misaligned a little bit, why we go wild. Do y'all know who this is? Game of Thrones. Give me Game of Thrones fans, please raise your hand. All right, very good. We're going to talk about a lot of Game of Thrones. Also know, for those of you who haven't watched Game of Thrones, you're still going to be totally in it, and there'll be no spoilers. No spoilers. I think. All right, so this is a wildling. Get it? He's wild. He goes rogue. All right, very good. Here are the reasons. Number one, it's hard for us to be aligned, or people think that we have gone rogue because we weren't taught recruiting. How many of you got your degree, your undergraduate degree in recruiting? How many of you got your undergraduate degree in HR? Of those few people, how many of you had a minor in recruiting? And if you were taught recruiting, how many of you had a book that was written, a textbook written post-2002? All right, doesn't happen. All right, how many of you, when you were a little kid, dreamed of being a recruiter? I dreamed of being Princess Leia and an airline stewardess, not a recruiter. A lot of us, how many of you learned on the job? Yeah, like all of us have. That's good. Problem is a lot of times you're just learning what works for your current organization. All right? So again, we weren't taught it. Number two, we feel we've been undermined. We don't have the tools, the time, the money, the resources to really do a great job to the best of our abilities. How many of you at the end of the year, when you have to turn in your budgets, go to your CFO and go, I need 2 more head counts, I need this great applicant tracking system, then here it is, can you approve it? And they go, oh, hot damn, now there's your money, and they start making it rain. Doesn't happen. It doesn't happen. This is a normal thing. This is an obstacle that likely won't change. But sometimes we feel we've been undermined, so we're kind of like, we're going to disengage. Number 3, we don't reskill. Now, you guys do. You're here. Right? How many of you, though, after this conference will do probably any other conferences this year, do any kind of webinars or any other types of things to keep reskilling? Right? Good, I hope you do. Everybody, please raise your hand. But the reason we don't reskill is why? Time. It's time, right? Busy. And not only do we not have the time usually to actually come to events like this, we don't even have the time to take some think time, 4-hour break from work just to think about what our current processes are. And when you're on that treadmill and you don't have time to think, you don't have time to innovate. And if you don't have time to innovate, then you certainly are not going to be likely as competitive as the other people in your industry. Right? We feel undervalued. All right, a lot of times we do feel undervalued. This was a report from Launchpad. How much value do you think your business places in the recruiting team? 51% said very little to no value. Now, we have to change that. We have to own that, and we need to change that perspective, and we can do that by getting aligned with what your other stakeholder and decision makers value as well. Now, we don't want to be victims to it though, right? We don't want to be like little Bran Stark who got pushed out that window. I don't really think that's a spoiler, by the way, Game of Thrones. We know that we have these obstacles that we have to overcome. Right? But one thing that I'm going to say to you to just do a level set, and some of you might like it or agree, and some of you might not like it. But in my opinion, recruiting isn't hard. Recruiting isn't hard. When I say recruiting, I mean attracting people to your website. Attracting candidates to your website or your careers page or that ad of some sort, that networking event. We are 3 reasons. Number 1, we are more connected to other people who we want to attract to our websites than we ever had. If you don't think so, you are right now attending the LinkedIn conference. You're connected. Number 2, unemployment is low right now. So unemployment has its challenges, having a low unemployment rate has its challenges, but here right now, you actually have top talent at your competitors who might not be happy, and they're actually willing to listen to your phone call. So we're easier to connect. Number 3, HR technology. Now, HR technology hasn't made things a lot more efficient, but if used properly, it helps us connect better than we ever have before. Recruiting's not hard. What is stakeholder alignment. Once you get the people to your website, is your recruiter, your hiring manager, and your C-suite aligned with what values, what drives each other, the behaviors, because behaviors affects and impacts result. And what drives your hiring team, is that cohesive with your corporate culture? Right? These folks here, a lot of the times they're not talking to one another. Are you completely clear on the role, all 3 of them? Are you completely clear on the compensation? Are you completely clear on who is the freaking decision maker? All right? How many times have you had this happen? You are the hiring manager or recruiter, you've been partnering together, you've got a person who's been through 5 interviews, they passed the assessment, they've taken the tour, they've met your team, you've taken them out to lunch, but then the last level decision maker, that C-suite who hasn't really been in your department forever, they get to do the final interview and have veto power. Oh my gosh, it's the worst, isn't it? It's the worst. The only exception to the rule is if it's a small company. Small company, I get it. Any other organization, what does that do to your trust and your alignment? What does it do when, I call it, somebody swoops in? They didn't empower you, recruiter or hiring manager, to make that decision. Right? These are the things we've got to get aligned on. So some of you might say, well, give me some reasons why. I'm going to give you 4 more reasons. 1, business alignment is a prime trait of mature talent teams. Now, when we talk about mature talent teams, I'm not talking about people who are look like me or old, or people who have been tenured for a long time. We're talking about teams that are in their flow. We're talking about those teams that are connected and they're engaged with each other and they have a sense of ownership. And the hiring managers have a sense of ownership. That's what we're talking about. But more importantly, business alignment. They also are respected and aligned with the business needs. Can I get amen? All right, and these are the couple of points here. Companies that have mature talent acquisition teams, 18% more revenue, 30% greater profitability. Those companies have those stats. Just show that to your CEO. I'm sure they're going to give you that budget you need, right? Sure. Okay, number 2, builds trust. Alignment with those stakeholders builds trust. When you realize that you value similar things, or you can talk about things that you're like, wait, we're out of alignment, it builds trust. Trust is simply this, the ability to be vulnerable with one another without fear of retribution from what you've said. All right, that bears repeating. The ability to be vulnerable with one another without fear of retribution. Easiest way, I'm going to give you this tidbit, for you to start building trust and alignment with those stakeholders is start being transparent. All right? Companies that do these things have a culture of transparency. Your talent acquisition teams should have the same thing. We're talking about things like just don't hoard information. Establish trust through social media, partner. Reason 3 why you have to align, it creates a hiring culture of ownership. Right? Ownership. That doesn't just mean that the recruiter is handling and owning everything in the result. We're talking about everybody who's a stakeholder has ownership. Now, my partner in crime, John Vastalica, raise your hand. By the way, he's my new boss, so he's awesome. I'm going to be doing he does such great things. He actually told me a story. He was the talent acquisition director for Amazon. And he said when he went there, it was amazing. All the people had complete ownership in the recruiting process. They believed in it. The hiring managers, if they didn't think they were getting stuff quickly enough, they would go to the recruiting team and go, hey, John, hey, I'm excited about this candidate. Where are we at? Do we have some more stuff? Have we done blah, 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 blah? It's awesome. John then went off to his next great gig, probably another formidable company. And what they found out was this. There was no culture of ownership. And he said it was like a punch in the gut. Like you had to expend so much mental energy trying to get people aligned and trying to get people to commit and trying to get people to own. Y'all ever feel that in your organizations? Yeah, absolutely. All right, so here is a great example of what a culture that lacks ownership looks like. Let's imagine this gentleman is your C-suite. The lady behind her is, let's say, this gentleman is your hiring manager and this lady is your recruiter.
That's not good.
Oh, I don't need this. I'm already late.
Somebody will come. Anybody out there?
Do you have a phone?
No. Sorry. Somebody! Hello? There are 2 people stuck on an escalator and we need help. Now, would somebody please do something?
Help!
I don't believe this. You gotta be kidding me.
I'm gonna cry.
Well, there's not enough left to do, is there?
Okay, here's your C-suite.
Hello? Hey, don't worry about it. I'll fix it in a second.
He said he can fix it. All right. All right. That's more like it. He says he can fix it.
All right, and so on and so forth. All right, so that's what we call a culture of noise. Lack of ownership creates a culture of noise. That means that we have the philosophy that the squeaky wheel gets the grease. The louder we yell, the more stuff will happen for us. That's when we start pointing fingers. Well, you fix it. No, you fix it. No, you fix it. It's a culture of escalation where we think if we yell high enough to the higher level, we'll get stuff done, all right? That's not ownership, that's a culture of noise. Reason 4, the goal of culture building, especially with your hiring culture, is to foster ongoing clarity and alignment, there's that word, that creates a competitive advantage that nobody can copy. That is the gold. People can copy your website, people can copy your process, people can copy that assessment you use, but they cannot copy your authentic hiring culture. They can't copy it. It's gold. So they cannot copy the way that the hiring manager is really involved in the process. They can't copy the way that John, your receptionist, greets people. They can't copy the way that you're in flow. Can't copy that. Huge advantage, particularly if you're trying to engage the right candidates for your current culture. Big head, y'all awake? Y'all with me? It's kind of hot in here, isn't it? That's all right. We can just got some fans. Yeah, LinkedIn, we need some fans. All right. Reason stakeholder alignment is difficult. We talked about recruiter alignment, stakeholder alignment. Oh, there's my boss. John Vlastelica actually says, and this is actually something I love that he says, misalignment is the root of all evil. And then he drops a microphone and he says, hey, misalignment is the root of all evil. Again, when you're misaligned with your candidates, with your processes, with the other stakeholders, you don't know what they value. You do not know what behaviors are driven. Behaviors drive results. We've got to know what we value. Now, alignment versus misalignment. Couple of examples. Who here has had shrimp and grits? The most delicious food ever, Cajun shrimp and grits. Big, plump, juicy Gulf Coast shrimp, Cajun spices, grits, cheesy stuff. Awesome. Totally aligned. Misaligned, shrimp and Jell-O. Totally misaligned. I have no idea what they were doing in the 50s. I don't know what was happening. Aligned, Ross and Rachel? Yes. Even when they were on a break? Yes. Misaligned, Joey and Rachel? That was gross. There was nothing right about that. Aligned, peanut butter and everything. Peanut butter and chocolate, peanut butter and caramel, peanut butter and ice cream, peanut butter and other peanuts. Totally delicious. Misaligned, licorice, black licorice. Literally is the root of all evil. It is horrible, it's horrifying. And it doesn't align with anything. That's licorice ice cream. Come on, that's nothing right about this. So, alignment good, misalignment bad. Let's get serious though. The reason why it's difficult for us to get aligned with stakeholders is our role is really broad. Sometimes we don't know what we're the subject matter experts in. We don't know what we value because we're not exactly sure what we're really supposed to do. Read an article that said by the year 2020, all y'all have to be experts in all of these things. That's a hot mess, isn't it? Not only do you have to be a truffle hunter and a smart social seller, you have to be a psychologist. Oh, and then after all that, be passionate. All right? So that's difficult. We need to be able to hone that down and figure out what are the 3 things we're subject matter experts in so we can value that and align and get rewarded for it. Our egos are really big. Not just recruiters, every stakeholder. C-suite. Big ego. Hiring managers, big ego. Recruiters, big ego. Why is that? Because we deal with people. We all think we're experts in people. Right? And I'll tell you, when my title is recruiter, or I was considered the talent acquisition specialist, and somebody would come to me and question and tell me how I should recruit, I'd be like, oh, hell no. Wait a second. I don't come and question how you sell. What's the situation? But we know this gets in the way. We realize that we have more in common than apart. And then, of course, here we get to the culture piece, your underlying patterns and your norms. We don't understand what they are. And that's essentially what your culture is. What are the underlying values, patterns, and norms that are driving the way we work together? Right? It's like a cake. A lot of the times, we only know what the outer layer's like. We know that shiny surface, the delicious frosting and the delicious coconutty stuff up there. That is, again, like John, the receptionist, who is so good at greeting candidates and giving them tours. All right? It is, hey, you've got that recruiter that asks the best questions and engages people. Or you have that great hiring website that really is engaging. But then when you dig under the surface and you realize that candidate then meets the hiring manager and the hiring manager was 45 minutes late, then we realize that underneath the surface, it's not that aligned. It's like a mud pie. It's like a dirt pie. It's a little gritty. It doesn't quite work. And we don't understand what those things are. So we have to get aligned. The outcome of misalignment, there's simply no clarity, and if you have no clarity, you have no ownership. Clarity is hugely important. Patrick Lencioni said this, and I'm paraphrasing. If leaders, and I consider everybody who's a recruiter a leader, and if you're not, you should be, and I don't mean you manage necessarily a group of people, you elevate your role to being a strategist, to being a business partner. If you are fuzzy on direction, then everybody downstream's completely in the dark. Who's the worst person who should be in the dark about anything going on with your recruiting process? Who should not be in the dark? The recruiter. Below the recruiter, who should not be in the dark? The candidate. Say that again. The candidate cannot be in the dark. If we're aligned, then the candidate's not in the dark. Person behaving badly, come back. So what's culture? Some of you, when I asked you, were like, hey, I don't even know what culture really is. What does that mean? Maybe it was you, I'm not sure. Of course, we're going to talk about hiring culture. Easiest way to determine hiring culture from engagement, from values. Deloitte, to me, had just the simplest way to break it down. Culture is the way we do things around here. It's that simple. All right? The way we do things around here. Versus engagement. It's the way people feel about the way we do things around here. All right? Culture is the input, the stuff we do. The level of engagement's the output. All right? So here again, here is 9 to 5. How many people have seen 9 to 5? Wow, I need to rewatch it. It's so good. Like the first kind of feminist empowerment. So this is what the outer layer was at work. Happy, smiley, great with customers, loved each other, answered the phone, really great. This was the way things worked around there. This was the way they felt about the way things worked around there. They were discriminated against. They didn't make enough money and they couldn't get promoted. Right? So we have to get these things aligned. Culture. Again, we can't just say the way things work around here though, right? So here, if you want a more definitive definition, collection of words, actions, thoughts, and artifacts that clarify and reinforce what is truly valued. That's the operative word, valued, inside your organization. Let's just change this up to your microculture. What's valued by talent acquisition stakeholders? Here's values. Values are usually what's on the wall. Different between values and what's valued. Values usually are somewhat aspirational. Usually your leaders got in a room and said, these are the things that we value here, and we want people to value these too. Great place to start. But what's valued usually, in some ways, doesn't sync up with that. It's what's rewarded. This is what's valued. What's rewarded, what is encouraged, and what's modeled. What is modeled by your leaders is truly what's valued in the organization. Here's a list of typical values. Usually we start here, and usually you're looking at choices of values. Usually there's like a roster of 12, right? Unfortunately, when you look at these look pretty solid. These were Enron's values. Okay, these were Enron's values. Clearly they did not have a culture of integrity, respect. What did they value? Loud. Money. They valued money at all costs, and it collapsed their organization. Only 27% of people believe in their company values. So we got to do a little better. And then when we talk about the hiring industry, again, right now we got a 352% staffing turnover rate. Actually, it's a couple years old. Does that number surprise anybody? I think it's mainly agencies. 43% industry standard. So we've got to do a better job at getting aligned as well, because a lot of people don't stay if they don't feel valued or they're not aligned with what their leaders want, what their leaders value, what the other stakeholders value. Big head, behaving badly. Actually, he turned out to be a pretty cool guy, didn't he? He ended up, he behaved badly a long time ago. All right, so here's what we're going to do very quickly. How do you assess your culture, your hiring culture? Who are your stakeholders again? Y'all yell it out to me. Hiring manager? C-suite? Recruiter. Very good, thank you. So how do we do this? What you have to do is you got to collect a little data on what's valued by the three parties. You collect a little bit of data, and it's going to be based on these primary drivers. When I went ahead and I looked at a lot of different culture pros, usually there's about 10 to 12 different things that most organizations say drive what is valued. Communication, how do we talk to one another? Collaboration, do we take that information and actually assimilate it and make decisions together? Agility, how quickly can we move and change based on the needs of work? Transparency, we've discussed that. Customer service solutions, how much do we value making sure the customer feels taken care of, AKA candidate experience. Innovation, inclusion, accountability. Now, inclusion's interesting. It's not only including diverse populations, but it's also allowing people to be their authentic self at work. They can be vulnerable in themselves. It also might be about cognitive diversity. Interesting thought. So here's what I'm going to do. We're going to take Game of Thrones. Again, give me my Game of Thrones fans. All right, okay. And we're actually going to go through, assuming that your Game of Thrones people have gotten some data on them. So you have your C-suite. That's going to be Jon Snow, Tyrion Lannister, and just if you haven't seen Game of Thrones, you're totally still going to be on point. Tyrion Lannister, he's your hiring manager. Arya Stark, she's a recruiter. All right, Jon Snow, C-suite. He's that higher level decision maker. Y'all tell me, who's Jon Snow? He's a what? He's the king of the north. Yeah, he's kind of was like kind of a lowly guy, and he rose up to great power. Leader, high cognition, very smart, puts others first, empathetic, highly ethical, follows rules. He's kind of a loner, though, low sense of humor. So Jon Snow, I took the executive authority decision-making to say, here's what he values the most. Collaboration. He wants to work with others. Agility. Yeah, lots of stuff gets thrown at him, doesn't it? Transparency, accountability. Right. Now we got Tyrion Lannister. How many of you think he's like the greatest character of all time? Yes, right, clap out loud if you think that's true. All right, very good. Natural leader, high cog, just like Jon Snow, quick-witted, empathetic, good-natured, can read a room, knows everybody's flaws. Okay, we got some data on him. Here's what he values. Communication, agility, et cetera, et cetera. Now we got Arya Stark. Who thinks she's just like the baddest ass of all? Yes, she's awesome. Natural leader, high cog, loyal and dedicated. Here's her deal though. She doesn't follow rules. She's totally independent. Recruiter, right? Totally independent. Doesn't really care what others think. Very focused on results. Here's what she values. All right, so now when we go deeper, you've got some data. We got to look at what are the common drivers? What are the values that your stakeholders are aligned with? Somebody look across and tell me where there's 3 smiley heads. Agility. We also got innovation is highly aligned, and accountability. That's the leverage points. That's the beginning of your hiring culture. That's the beginning of what you should look at and go, these are the things we all inherently are aligned with. Let's leverage the hell out of this. Let's leverage it. Let's do things like this. Hey, we can now talk. We all are on common point. How about we discuss if our process is too heavy? We believe agility is important. Do we need to remove a layer or 2? How many of you have 5 interviews levels? 4. 3. A lot of you can make the decision in 2 probably. You don't know. Let's talk about it. Agility. How about who's the decision maker? Is it the hiring manager or is it the veto person? If it's the veto person, let's just go ahead and call a thing and get to the decision quicker. Innovation. We think this is important. How about we conduct meetings with hiring departments? Let's talk to your hiring department and get some new ideas about how we should recruit better so we can get candidates that fit this culture. Or hey, how about me and you, hiring manager, recruiting manager? Why don't we think about how we reskill together? We're building trust, shared experiences, partnership, accountability. We're now more aligned. Are y'all with me? More aligned, got it? Accountability. How about we agree together how we're going to hold each other accountable? Simple as that. Let's just agree. I trust you. If I have gotten you what I've promised you, come tell me. I'm going to get it for you. All right? Now we got to look at where are gaps. Customer service is not in here. That could be a problem. I guarantee everybody there thinks they value it, but the data isn't showing it. All right, we got to figure that out. Okay, and here, you know what, Jon Snow, you're not on point with transparency. With innovation. But you're the person that holds my budget for that new technology I need. We need to talk about that. Or hey, Tyrion, you're the decision maker, but you haven't valued accountability so much. So is that why you keep asking me for 3 more resumes and 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 3? You get it? Yeah, you got to make a decision. And Ira, she ain't on point with anything. She's like, I really don't care. I'm doing it my way, but I'm going to get you some results. All right, so once you have that, now you got to remove those bottlenecks. We got to remove the bottlenecks that keep us from hiring fast and quality. Those are the 2 things that everybody wants, right? At the end of the day, your hiring manager wants more candidates more quickly, higher quality. Amen? You with me? All right, very good. So here's what you do with that data to get us aligned. Let's look at that tech system and make sure we're utilizing it. Maybe it'll be faster. Isn't my hair luxurious in that picture? Very luxurious. Transparency, customer service. You know what? All of us do want the candidate experience to be good. We got to start getting some data on the candidate experience. All right? Anybody doing candidate experience surveys? How's it working? Pretty good stuff, isn't it? All right. Accountability. Okay, Tyrion, let's talk to you a little bit, hiring manager. We got a bit of a disconnect. Let's figure out how we can work better together so you can make the decision more quickly. We trust you with the decision, we think. And then we got to coach Ira. Hey, you might not be a fit. You got to collaborate a little better. All right. Now, some of you might go, where do I start? Where do I get questions? You told me about all this data. Guess what? If you download the slides, in the next 10 days, I'm going to send you a one-pager with some questions you could ask at your intake meeting, which I want to call a strategic meeting. Again, I don't think right now you need to go invest in a big assessment tool. Let's make some small changes together with what we talk about in that intake meeting. Let's figure out what each other value. Someone will give you some questions, all right? Does that sound good? Yeah? Y'all awake? Is it hot? It's hot, isn't it? I'm so glad I wore like triple deodorant. That's it. It's a bad situation. All right, and then once you do it, you better agree on some expectations or all of it's just, come on, it's just a waste, right? Let's just agree on a few things to start building trust and vulnerability. Here's how you do it though. Let's create expectations. This is from a company I worked with, and this was our definition of accountability. Take a picture of that. I'm gonna tell you why, it has some good language in it. We choose to be held accountable. Active language, we choose. And this is how we're gonna do it. We're gonna prioritize bi-weekly requisition stakeholder meetings. We're going to prioritize 5-minute stand-up meeting. C-suite, third-level decision maker, you can commit to 5 minutes around the table. You can call in. We agree to put all recruiting data into our systems of record within 24 hours of each interview. All right, maybe we should say 48 hours, right? 24, maybe not quite so high. Adhere to our culture of ownership and allow others to regularly remind us of our commitments. Yeah. Please, I want you to remind me of it. Yeah, we're together in this. We're aligned. We already said we already agree on accountability. Let's leverage that. Let's make that culture special. And you know what? I'm going to solicit help from other stakeholders if I'm behind schedule. I need help. Hey, C-suite or decision maker or hiring manager, I do need your help, and I want to be transparent about that because we want to get high quality. We want to get you somebody fast. Amen? Amen. All right. Okay, last but not least. Oh, yeah, she kind of behaves badly right now, right? Soak that in for a minute. Soak it in. Okay. If we have an aligned hiring culture between the stakeholders, who are your 3 stakeholders? Recruiter, C-suite. Very good, thank you. Brings clarity and ownership. Clarity, which then of course is going to help with candidate engagement. So we're going to round this out here. We just have a few more minutes. Here's what happens when your C-suite and or hiring manager isn't quite aligned with your other stakeholders. This is what the candidate experience turns into.
Who are you?
My name is Andy Sachs. I recently graduated from Northwestern University.
And what are you doing here?
Well, I think I could do a good job as your assistant. And, yeah, I came to New York to be a journalist and sent letters out everywhere and finally got a call from Elias Clark and met with Sherry up at Human Resources. And basically, it's this or Auto Universe.
So you don't read Runway?
No.
And before today, you had never heard of me?
No.
And you have no style or sense of fashion?
Well, I think that depends on what you're...
No. That wasn't a question.
I was editor-in-chief of the Daily Northwestern. I also won a national competition for college journalists with my series on the Janitors Union, which exposed the exploitation of... Yeah, okay. You're right. I don't fit in here. I am not skinny or glamorous, and I don't know that much about fashion, but I'm smart, I learn fast, and I will work
All right,
very
I've
hard.
got the exclusive on the Cavalli for Gwyneth. But the problem is, with that huge feathered headdress that she's wearing, she looks like she's working the main stage of the Golden Nugget.
Thank you for your time.
Who is that sad little person? Are we doing a before and after piece I don't know about?
Okay, all right. So, HR pushed her through, recruiting pushed her through. They were aligned. She really was kind of a badass once you see the movie. Last level decision maker not aligned. What was that experience like? Absolutely horrible. So you guys know right now that the candidates are in control, right? Y'all know that? We know that. We know right now that the modern worker has learned through the internet to expect transparency and communication and respect and the ability to be heard and vote. So if this is the experience they get, 72% of your folks are going to tell everybody they know, and 85% will never consider another job with you, even if it's a different hiring manager who's great. And they probably won't shop or buy your services either, right? That's not good. So she needed to turn her frown upside down. Let's get aligned. Let's understand what is driving all of our behavior so we can leverage it. And last but not least, here are some companies that Recruiting Toolbox has worked with, because we want to show you how you can partner with and engage once you're aligned on those things with your hiring managers. Here's some cool stuff that these companies have done with the recruiter and the hiring manager together. Autodesk. They created Meet the Hiring Manager video job ads. So we're going to be transparent with the hiring manager out on their job website. This is what we do, and this is what we're about, and this is who I am, and this is what I like, and this is what we do. All right? And guess what? When your hiring manager is engaged like that, then they're going to have more ownership, right? And they love to have their faces up on television, don't they? Amazon. Bring your own referral parties with new hires. Hiring managers, new hires, everybody can be there for it. We can partner together, we can have fun, we can commiserate, we can have a shared experience, which builds trust, which helps with transparency, which helps us be more aligned. Yahoo! They all invested in 1-week sourcing sprints. What does that mean? The hiring managers got behind a computer and sourced. What does that do? We have a shared experience. We can understand each other. We both can then also, share in the results. That's alignment. That's what mature talent acquisition teams do. That's what recruiters who want to know the business do. Elevate. Don't sell yourself short. Uber. Pre-built interview structures. They had a whole structure. All right, stakeholder 1, 2, 3. Here's what you're going to cover. Here's what you're going to cover. Here's what you're going to cover. Here's what you're going to do in your interviews and determine. Here's what you're going to do in the interviews and determine. Here's what you're going to do and determine. And guess what? You're making the decision. Ah, bravo. TripAdvisors. They always had prep meetings and feedback meetings. And then O-Power, that's not a company we worked with, but I read about them, and they had something because they were trying out new metrics. You got to start somewhere. They had what were called try-storming sessions, where they were able to try out different resourcing metrics, recruiting metrics to see if they worked. Here's what you got to do when you go back. Promise me. Get that one-pager I'm going to give you, start collecting some data, assess it. Really easy. You saw what we did with the Game of Thrones. Guys, you don't need an organizational development expert to start building the alignment. And then set expectations and take action. Even if it's just a couple of baby steps. Even if it's just making your intake meeting a little bit more, knowledge share. Even if it's just some of these small things you can do together. That's the alignment that's going to create a hiring culture that's unlike any other of your competitors. It's going to be the ones where they're going to look at you as a business partner and a leader who should have a big damn ego to say, this is what I do and let me help you do it. And then you create an accountability and ownership plan. Let's own it. Let's have a culture of ownership where we're all together in this. We share the reward. We share the heartache. We go together and celebrate together. And then we high-five each other when engagement is high and we have low turnover. There is the link, you guys. Take a picture of it. Please go there immediately and download these slides. And like I said, if we get your information or if you download the slides, I then have a way to get you the questions. All right, guys, thank you so much for your time. It's been a pleasure. Enjoy the rest of your conference.